Redlick. I'm going to talk about U.S. immigration issue, like my own personal U.S. immigration issue. But just before I get that, breaking news: Tesla has unveiled a new or filed for a new Model Y in China. That's a longer Model Y, the new Model Y L. I had actually suggested in the past that Tesla needed a Model Y XL, a longer vehicle. They didn't go as long as I thought. They're about 7 inches longer, where I was thinking they would go for maybe 12 inches longer, but 7 inches is probably enough. And this will allow for probably a third row. They're probably doing captain's chairs in the second row because they said 6 seats. And it says new seats. I wonder if what's common in China is to have second row seats that have massaging feature, because wealthy people in Asian countries like Thailand and China will buy a vehicle and have a driver, that they don't actually drive themselves. They have a driver. So this is potentially big news. We'll see. Um, and like I said, I suggested that Tesla should do a Model Y XL. It turns out they're doing a Model Y L. New wheels, rear spoiler, whatever, new paint. But the big thing, I want to see what happens with these seats. Hello, B. I don't know. Modified rear design behind the C pillar. We'll see. We'll see what all this is. It's probably got more interior cargo space for when they fold the seats down. Though it depends on how the seats are. If they're captain's chairs, it won't have that effect. So we'll see. So anyway, that's really exciting. But I want to get into what this video is really about. So I just came back from Bangkok. Um, really calls just the 14 forces really calls into question the need to maintain the Model X. Oh, you got notice. Okay, thank you, Ken. So yeah, I don't know whether they still need the Model X. I think the reality is that they have a manufacturing line and they can make some money on the Model X, so they keep making it. But I think it's time to let Model X and Model S go. But Tesla team knows better than I do. So we just went to Bangkok. The main reason we went to Bangkok is for my wife to have an interview at the U.S. Embassy, which was scheduled ahead of time to get a tourist visa to go with me to America for a 3-week trip in October. It's called a B2 visa. I believe the tourist visa is actually good for 10 years, but I don't think you get to stay for 10 years. It's like you'd go for a short period. Um, I don't remember whether it's what the limit is, but you can go for a short period. Maybe you can go for just 6 months, but we were only going to go for 3 weeks in October, visit my family, my friends, Starbase, of course, Giga Texas, and hopefully watch a launch from Florida as well. So um, she was rejected. They tell you right on the spot. And I just wanted to point out countries that have welcomed my wife as a tourist. Now, for those who don't know, I married my wife. My wife is Thai. She's a citizen of Thailand. We married about 10 months ago. Um, in the time that we've been together, we've been to Europe once. She was in Europe once before that. We've been to Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong together. We went to Austria. We went to Japan twice together. We went to Taiwan and Hong Kong together. We went to Austria, Italy, and Greece together, and Turkey. She's been to Germany and France before. We've been to Malaysia, Vietnam. I may be even missing something. All of those countries welcome my wife as a tourist. There's 2 countries that have said no so far: the United States of America and South Korea. South Korea officially has a policy that Thai people can enter without a visa, but they have an online thing where you check in before you arrive, and they rejected her twice. So South Korea is on my list of I'm never going to South Korea. I went to South Korea about 30 years ago, love the food, but we're flying from Japan. She's with an American. This is not the kind of person that is likely to people who are, the concern that countries have is this person's going to overstay their visa and they're going to work illegally. How many people go to Korea from Japan? How many Thai people come from Japan? Like, why wouldn't she just stay in Japan and overstay her visa in Japan? Why would she go to Korea to do it in Korea? And she's traveling with an American. Like, how does this make sense? And so when I criticize America, like, keep in mind other countries also have bizarre immigration policies. So in South Korea, officially no visa required for Thai citizens, but they generally will not allow Thai people to come in. So buy her a Trump gold card, right? No, but the United States just today, it's still today, is about 12 hours ago, rejected my wife for a tourist visa to go to Florida, drive up the East Coast, visit some friends on the way up, visit my daughter in New York, visit family in New Hampshire, visit my hometown in Albany, New York, drive down to Austin, stopping to see a friend on the way, and then go to Starbase and then drive back to Florida, give the Tesla back to my daughter in Florida, and fly back. We had a nice trip planned. And my own country said no. Country I've been paying taxes to for more than 40 years says I can't bring my wife to America as a tourist. Now, a little bit of background here. If we applied for a spouse visa to go live in America, then she probably would be approved. I think that one's kind of a no-brainer, but it takes like 15 months and the expectation is that you will live in America. So it's a lot to go through for a 3-week vacation and then not live in America, and I think you lose the visa if you don't stay. Um, so I think I'm answering 14.4's question right here. Why not instead file as a spouse of a citizen to get permission to visit the U.S., not as a tourist? Right. So that's not to visit. That's to live. So it's a bunch of questions I'm going to address that came up on X after I posted this. But I just want to give you so that's the first thing that people think is, well, I thought the spouse of an American could get a green card. Well, she could, but that's a long process. And the thing is, she doesn't want to live in America. We don't want to live in America. My daughters don't need that much of my time. I don't have anybody in America that needs me for, anything significant other than sending one of my kids cash once in a while or something. I have friends that I would like to see. I have family I would like to see, but we don't need to live in America. But she has family here in Thailand that need her and need us. And, we're hoping to have children. And when we have children, my kids are busy. My mother's dead. My father's dead. I don't have any family left to like help with children. Her mother's here. Her mother's living in this house with us. So being near her family means we have help with our children. And her mother's, I think, a very good mother. Very good to her, in my opinion. So it doesn't make sense for us to live in America. And also, not to mention that the cost of living here is much lower. The quality of life here is, no offense to Americans, but the quality of life here in Krabi, Thailand is higher, significantly higher. But the cost of living is just shockingly low. So, I have my income from doing this and from X and from, other social media stuff. And I have, my Tesla investments. And um, it's easy for me to live comfortably on the money I make and the money I have here. It's difficult to live well in America on, you know, what I make and what I have. I can do it, but long term, that's not a good strategy. So, but fundamentally, it's just we want to be close to her family, and that's not viable. And so I spent a lot of time figuring out where should we live long term. We thought about Japan, thought about Spain, and ultimately we want to be close to her mother. So and the rest of her family. We're also helping to raise her grandnieces, and which her mother was taking care of already. So this is the place we need to be to help with the grandnieces, to help with her mother. We help her father. Her father's here, has medical issues, so being here is good. So the gold trump card doesn't make any sense. And no, I can't afford a gold trump card. I don't need a gold trump card. She could just get a spouse visa and live in America, but we don't want to live in America. So anyway, that's the point. So um, just to see this is the quality of bureaucracy. I'm not attributing this specifically to the United States. I'm sure this kind of bureaucratic stuff happens in other countries, but this is what they handed her at the end. You've been found ineligible for it. Doesn't explain what was wrong. It doesn't say this is why you were rejected. It's not signed. It's not even dated. She she was handed this morning. Cannot be appealed. You can reapply at any time. If you decide to reply, it must have been informed, pay the visa application fee. They're raising the visa application. You don't get the money back. It's $125 fee. I think it was $125 fee. You don't get that money back if you apply. I think they're raising the fee to $250, and you still don't get the money back if they reject you. If you choose to reapply, you should be prepared to provide information that was not presented in your original application or to demonstrate that your circumstances have changed since that application. So we'll talk about that in a second. Just want to show you some of the responses and some of my reactions to the responses here. Yeah, Ken says the same thing happened to me with my Colombian wife. They said we failed to get her a visa in Bogota before we came. Um, so BM has lived in Costa Rica and the Philippines, and he's tried to get his wife a tourist visa, and he's tried a lot more. And I've heard this, just to be clear, this isn't me, right? This is a common complaint of American citizens living in countries like Thailand and the Philippines and Costa Rica and Colombia, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, etc. Countries that are not wealthy countries. Europeans have a different experience. Canadians generally have a different experience. Japanese, Australians have a different experience. But if you are from a not wealthy country, you are generally discriminated against by a lot of countries. And Thailand is not in the top tier, right? Thailand's a second or third tier country when it comes to like wealth. So, so anyway, BM is another example of it. Ken in the chat is another example of it. Joe Bhakti says this is completely rude. Nuts. I assume you mentioned in the application that you are married and you are a U.S. citizen. Yeah. So in the application form. I'm the sponsor. My daughter is in the United States contact, who has been here in Thailand and spent a week with us and has met my wife and spent time with my wife. Um, they have my brokerage account showing basically how much Tesla stock I have, which is a lot, that I can afford to cover the costs of everything when we come visit. Um, and so they knew I was a U.S. citizen. They know she's married to me. Some people have said so. Sorry, and then Tesla Joy, very prominent OG member of the Tesla community, says, "What? That's insane. Why?" So this is my opinion now. It is a long-standing policy, not a Trump policy. It is a long-standing policy of discriminating against the housewives of American citizens from countries like Thailand and others. Okay, my wife is a house. She doesn't work. If she had a job, I think we're going to talk about this in another go through here. Um, Mike Albany's just wait until 2028 when the Democrats cheat their way to the White House, free entry, blah blah blah. Okay, it's the same problem for decades. It's not new with Trump. This is well understood among people who have lived in Thailand, long-term Westerners who've lived in Thailand and other countries, Philippines, etc. BM mentioned he's been through this many times. It's a long-standing problem. Okay. Um, and I will say this. The thing is, for a lot of issues, you have an interest group that is wealthy and motivated and is able to reach out to members of Congress or, lobby the government to get a change. But, the vast majority of American citizens who are living in countries like Thailand, the Philippines, whatever, are middle class, right? There's a lot of people, and this is true for Europeans as well, right? And this is true for Europeans who want to bring their housewives to America as they may face the same discrimination. Um, I'm relatively wealthy. Even by American standards, I'm relatively wealthy, but by Thai standards, I'm wealthy. And by the standards of foreigners living here, generally speaking, I'm wealthy. You don't see a lot of foreigners driving 2 million baht Teslas around. A lot of people who live here are people who had middle class jobs who saved a couple hundred grand, maybe. Maybe they just have a pension coming in, and it's enough. You get a pension that pays you, $4,000 a month. That's not great for America, but that's great in Thailand, right? Or you're a digital nomad and you make a few $1,000 a month doing whatever you do, and that's $3,000 a month is plenty to live on in Thailand. Not great for America. It might not cover rent in a lot of places in America. And this is about tourism, not about immigration. We're not trying to live in America. She's not trying to live in America. So Svarn Capital says, hope it will clear soon. People in the U.S. don't realize how difficult it is for someone in Asia to legally get a U.S. visa, even a tourist visa. So Japanese people don't have a problem. Singapore people don't have a problem. I don't think Taiwan people have a problem. Hong Kong people probably don't have a problem. Wealthy countries don't have a problem. It's not Asia. Same problem hits Latin America. Same problem hits India. It might even hit Eastern Europe. I'm not sure how the Eastern European countries get with this. So, people have said, I hope you get in the future. It's like, I don't think I'm going to apply again. I mean, honestly, my wife is not welcome in the United States. Why would I bring her? And this is a little bit bitter. And I think I'll get past this, but like, do I really want to be an American citizen if my country won't let me bring my wife to visit? What kind of message is that sending? 40 years of paying taxes and screw you, Warren, you can't bring your wife. Maybe amend the application with Simon says, yeah. No. And it's just like, well, why would I bother trying to get into a country that doesn't want my wife to come? And from a practical standpoint, it's actually like if we go to America for 3 weeks like we plan, I'm gonna spend a lot of money. Now my plan is probably I'm gonna fly to New York City, have one of my daughters fly up. My other daughter lives in New York City. spend a few days with my daughters in New York City, fly back. That's going to cost me a lot less money than spending 3 weeks in America driving around. And then my wife and I will travel to countries where she is welcome, like Japan and Europe. She went to Europe. And this is the thing, like she had to apply for a visa to Austria. We went to Austria first. Austria said yes. Like, why would America be more difficult than Austria? And if she went to, if you haven't been to Austria, pretty nice country. Like I wasn't impressed with Italy. I wasn't that impressed with Greece. Definitely not impressed with Turkey. When I was in Spain years ago, wasn't that impressed. I think Spain might be better now, but Austria, that's a pretty nice country. Like, and Japan, spectacular country. This is my thing. Like, and this is like the biggest complaint I have about this is like, look, she's done 6 different trips to wealthy countries, you know, and she didn't overstay her visa in any of them. Like, like, if it was me, if I was going to overstay anywhere, it'd be Japan. If I was going to overstay work illegally somewhere, it'd be Japan. That place is paradise. Or Austria, like, the Europeans are like letting everybody get away with everything when the immigrants come in, like Austria, Germany, right? I mean, you just say I'm a refugee and poof, you get free money. We didn't do any of that. And if she wanted to live in America, if we wanted to live in America, we would apply for a spouse visa and we would get it. So why not let the housewives of American citizens come? Doesn't make any sense. And she had a job, just to be clear. She had a job with a subsidiary of an American company. It didn't pay that much, right? By American standards, and even by Thai standards, it didn't pay that much. But it's a professional job. She has a master's degree in bachelor's degree in computer science, master's degree. Um, if she had kept that job, that might have, done it. But it didn't pay that much, and she had to work nights every other month. And I asked her to quit for me, and she did. I would much rather have her as a housewife than have her working, night shifts. We want to have kids. That's not good for having kids. It's not good for her health. It's not good for my health. So she quit her job for me. Like, shouldn't that count as like a positive? And like having a job that pays less than $1,000 a month, less than $10,000 a year, that's a reason to come back to Thailand if you can get a job in America. It's idiotic. It's really dumb. It's really dumb. One last thing from X. This was a pretty thoughtful comment from Techman. It said they rarely allow it, regardless of your ties in your home country. The probability of overstaying your visa is high. Only way you're getting it is if you know the right people or you have a congressman in your district that has a good relationship with the State Department. And like, look, like I've said this before, she visited Europe twice and didn't overstay. She visited Japan twice and didn't overstay. Taiwan and Hong Kong didn't overstay. Hong Kong's pretty nice too. I didn't love Taiwan. It's not bad though. Just like for me, like, I'm not trying to come down on Taiwan. Like, it just didn't click for me. But love Japan. Hong Kong's pretty nice. Austria, pretty sweet. Germany's probably pretty sweet. Why would you think she's likely to overstay in America if she didn't overstay all these other times? How does that not count for something? So Techman says that's U.S. policy and 100% up to the consular officer's beliefs with no review or appeal allowed. Correct. That's what it says in the letter. And worse, even if they gave her the visa, they can still deny her at the airport. This is something they can deny her at she could get the visa. We arrive in America and they could say no there. The only thing you can do is sue the State Department over it. No, that's not going to work. I'm not suing the State Department over this. I don't think that lawsuit would work. Like, how would that lawsuit work? U.S. has the power. The government has the power to say no at the border. They don't really have to have a great reason. Friend that female tried to visit, strong ties, family, work, etc. at home, but they basically told her they don't trust females traveling to the U.S. They will return home no matter what proof they have. So our American government policy, bipartisan, under Biden, under Obama, under Trump, under Bush, has been to discriminate against the housewives of American citizens and females generally because, well, they might stay. And I'm pretty sure they discriminate against men too. But this is, widespread. And I think Techman is 100% correct. I don't like it, but I think it's 100% correct. So let me look in the chat here. When I visit Canada decades ago, I have to show my bank balance and proof of a job certificate. Canada afraid of me not going back to Malaysia then. Yeah. It's wealthy countries in general. But she showed her bank balance. She has a substantial bank balance. She owns a new Tesla Model Y. I bought it in her name. She has a lease on a house where she's on the lease of the we're moving into a house. We just took the keys today. We're moving in over the next 2 weeks into a new house. Her name's on that lease. Her name's on this lease. And we just rented a shop house. She's going to open a cafe. Her name's on only her name is on that lease. The shop house is like a 3-story semi-commercial building. Um so Jorge says applying for your significant other's visa or green card is a grind. Well, I just hired a service. It's a group in Bangkok that took care of the paperwork for us, and they coached her before she went into the interview. And they told us, there's a good chance they're going to say no. Um, B says it's an American. I had the same thing happen in 2021. They told me I had too much money. They were afraid I would disappear into Canada and never leave. Canada? They wouldn't let you into Canada? Well, now I don't have time to visit the EU, Canada, or US or UK as my husband is not well enough to travel with me. Yeah. Hi, Amy. Amy and I were were texting earlier. The USA has anti-developing country visitors for decades. Yeah, so I just wanted people to understand this, that number one, this is a topic that you don't hear about. You hear about all these illegal aliens sneaking across the Mexican border. You hear about some people who come as students and overstay. And it's like, did you know that American citizens, I'm sure you know that there's American citizens living in Thailand married to Thai women, Laos, Vietnam, Colombia, Costa Rica. It happens all over the world. And there's, you know, happens in America. It happens in other countries that, there's Germans living here married to Thai women. There's I know a guy from India who lives here. I think he's actually from the UK, but he looks Indian, right? But whatever. There's people from all over the world who come to various countries and they find someone and they live there with them. So it is US policy, apparently, to discriminate against the spouses of American citizens who want to visit the United States. Tourist visa only. This is not like and the odd thing is that if she wants to if we wanted to get her a spouse visa, that's okay. It's like, why would we go through the struggle, the trouble to get a tourist visa and then overstay if we wanted to stay in America, if we could just get a spouse visa, which gets her a green card? Like, why would we do it the wrong way? And, I can see like, okay, maybe some people are scamming. It's like, but we started dating about 18 months ago. Okay. We got married in September, about 10 months ago. If we were pulling a scam, wouldn't we have started already? Like, wouldn't we have gone for the 90-day fiance thing like before we got married? Why would we get married in Thailand instead of doing the 90-day fiance thing? And like, it's like, what is the, and I just think honestly, I don't think it's a rational policy. I think it's I don't know whether the person who walks in and does the interview has already made up their mind or somebody else made up their mind, or they have check boxes and she didn't check off all the correct boxes. Um, Jorge says, why didn't you apply for a K1 fiance or a K3 spouse visa? The answer is because that's for people who are going to live in America. And it takes 15 months, by the way, to get a spouse visa. We don't want to live in America. It doesn't make sense to do that if you're not going to live in America. And if it was the case that would be straightforward, then why not give us a tourist visa? I don't know. Why not give her a tourist visa? And there's other frustrating things like she goes into the interview in the embassy. I'm not allowed in. Like, why wouldn't you want her husband in the interview? Wouldn't you want to speak to the husband? If it's, I think if it's a spouse visa, they do want to interview the husband. But like, why wouldn't you want me in there? I'm not even allowed in the embassy. I can't even sit in the waiting room, right? I had to go to a cafe and wait for her. So Jorge says, yeah, tourist visa historically is a red flag, so it's not usually approved. Why? Why she got a tourist visa to Austria? Doesn't even need a visa to go to Japan or Taiwan or Hong Kong. Like, why would a tourist visa be a red flag? That doesn't make any sense. If you're married to an American, you can get a spouse visa, so the tourist visa should be easy. So 14.4 says, while the solution is more time consuming with a spouse visa, at least that avenue exists. There's no harm for starting the process. Now, no, the spouse visa doesn't work because if you leave, if you don't stay in the country, you lose the visa. The tourist visa is good for 10 years. So you can go for 6 months at a time. We're only going to go for a few weeks, and it's good for 10 years. It's good for not living in America. Why would we apply for a visa that doesn't allow you to live in America if we wanted to live in America? And we know, and it's easier to get the live in America visa, the spouse visa. Doesn't make any sense. Jose says there's nothing personal. Of course there's nothing personal. It's a completely impersonal system. If she was a Singaporean, this would be a no issue. Yes, third world country passport holders discriminated by the US. Yes. But like, okay, there's discrimination, but there should be some level of like, wow, you went to six wealthy, you've gone on 6 trips to wealthy countries and you didn't overstay your visa. Wouldn't that lower the probability? And you're married to an American. If you wanted to come to the country, you'd just come as a spouse visa. Why would somebody come on a tourist visa? I'm not saying that there's like some evil politician somewhere who made this rule, that there's some evil bureaucrat somewhere who made this rule. What I'm saying is it's some BS bureaucratic reason that existed like 40, I'm making up the number, but 40 years ago. And nobody's ever bothered to look at whether it should change. And I'm making this video, and I don't expect anybody's going to call their congressman and say, "Hey, why do you do this?" And I don't think the congressman's going to care, because what changes things in Washington D.C. is when a group of wealthy people get together and they make campaign contributions to congressmen and presidency, whatever, or buy off the Secretary of State or something, like say, "Hey, you guys need to change this policy." Right? But there's no group of American citizens who live in foreign countries who are that capable, who have the ability to organize in that way to make that happen and are willing to spend the money to make that happen. Because most of us, like I have enough, I could chip in. Somebody said, "Hey, Warren, we're going to make an effort. Can you chip in 5 grand?" Sure. Most people here can't do that. Um, yeah, and like I said, I'm not trying to say that there's some evil person somewhere who caused this to happen. What I would say is it's sort of like the evil of lack of intent, right? There's no like conscious intent. It's just a reality of this is the policy they adopted however long ago, and nobody's bothered to take a look at it. And the communists and the Democratic Party don't care because we're not terrorists and drug gang members, right? So they don't care whether we come to America. They don't want to get the only people they want to get into America are terrorists and drug dealers and drug gang members and welfare moms. They don't want, like, they don't care if the wives of wealthy Americans can't come to America. That doesn't, if that's not an issue for them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the America Party is a solution to it either. It wouldn't hurt, but did they ask her why she would return? It's in the application. We've got two grandnieces to take care of. Her takes care of her father, helps take care of her mother. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Um, But there's no job. Like, the 14.4 asks, I assume a job, family, and friends are called could be. We proved family, but she doesn't have a job. She's a housewife. Why is a housewife not a job? She's a housewife to an American citizen. Elon is right again. Laws should always have an expiration date to force reapproval. I don't think this is a law. I mean, it's 241B or whatever, but I think it's a regulatory structure that's hard to change. Um, I don't think PYG. I don't think it's necessarily. It's not that we wouldn't get the spouse visa. It is a lot of work. It is a lot. It is a cost. It's a lot of time. I believe the wait from Thailand is 15 months now. So if we wanted to visit America in October, even if we started a year ago, we got married in September, right? We started, that would be 11 months. That wouldn't do it. The wealth, and then, like I said, if you go on a spouse visa and then you leave after 3 weeks, which was the plan, you lose the visa. So you went through all that effort, and then you got to do it again every 15. You got to spend 15 months getting a visa. So I think I don't know what it costs. I think it costs a lot too. Right, wealthy people and corporations or whatever are using lobbies, and Qatar or whatever foreign governments are using lobbies to get changes for the things that they want. And even with all that, like, Silicon Valley can't get H1. They want to change the rules so that they can get H1B visas for really good engineers from China, India, wherever, and they can't get that done. So there's some interests that are opposed to it. Jorge says, I was a digital nomad, so incredibly difficult to live without a legit physical address in the U.S. I have a legit physical address in the U.S. I have 2 cars in the United States. I pay for car insurance. I have a U.S. phone number. I voted. I have all those things for me. So I just wanted this is like a little bit of venting, but I wanted to share this experience. It's frustrating, and I think more people. I would like to think more people should care, and I think people should understand the reality that the American immigration system is broken in many ways, and this is a way you probably haven't heard about. This is a way it's broken that's probably not famous. Yeah, I do think the American Party would be better. I don't think the American Party. This isn't on the list of things for the American Party to change, right? The American Party wants to fix the American deficit. I will say that this. I think that the ossified nature, the bureaucratic nature of the U.S. government has gotten so difficult, and you look at different things that are happening in America, and you say, is America going to be on top much longer? Are we still on top? We have, I mean, the biggest thing that I see, right, is that the United States government is interfering with the growth of energy generation, electricity generation. And if you want your economy to grow fast, you want to grow electricity generation fast. China is growing their electricity generation like crazy. America, Europe, Japan have all been flat for decades, relatively flat, slight increases. China's like a steep upward curve, and everybody else is flat. Well, if you want to build AI data centers, you want a lot of electricity. If you want to have electric cars, you want to have a lot of electricity. And I think there's a lot of things like that. If you want your military to adapt to the modern world, you probably want to have a lot of drones. And, the United States is addicted to buying large weapons platforms that will be extremely vulnerable to drones. Um, PYG has a really good point. It's incredibly hypocritical to say no illegal immigration while making it nearly impossible to enter legally. Yeah, even as a tourist, you jump the hoop of U.S. immigration restrictions or red tape. Yeah, I mean, look, I, again, I would say like don't. It's frustrating for me, but I can deal with it. Right. My primary goal is to visit my daughters. I will fly to New York and I will visit my daughters. Um, I will fly my daughters to visit me, or I will meet them somewhere else. I will find a way to spend time with my daughters, and I have two adult daughters in America. If you don't know, um, and for me, it's like, all right, I'll just live a different life than what I thought I was going to live. I thought I was going to go to America every year with my wife and spend 2 or 3 weeks and travel and take her to. We were going to go to Disney World or Universal Studios or something like that, and then the next time we'd go to California coastline and go to Starbase, whatever. I had a bunch of things that I wanted to do, and I have friends in a variety of locations. And my government told me they don't want my wife. Well, then you don't want me. And there's lots of countries that are happy to have us. We love Japan. Japan's a reasonably short flight from Bangkok, and I gotta say, like I didn't love, like I said, I didn't love Italy and Greece and Turkey, but Austria was pretty nice. I think Germany might be pretty nice. I think Spain might be worth a visit. Not sure. I speak French and Spanish, so maybe we'll go to France. Um, So, but there's just what I wanted to be clear about is it's not me. It's that there's many American citizens who live in foreign countries who are married to citizens of those countries. And if it's Thailand, if it's Malaysia, if it's Vietnam, if it's Laos, if it's Cambodia, if it's Colombia, if it's Costa Rica, I don't know how long the list is, but it's probably half the countries in the world, if not more. There's a lot of American citizens in the same boat who don't have the resources that I have to say, all right, I'll fly my daughters to Europe and we'll meet them there. I'll fly my daughters to Japan and I'll meet them there. Right. I have the resources to adapt to this. Right. A lot of people don't. The vast majority of American citizens. And like there's this stupid stuff. Like when we were getting married, I had to get a document notarized and it had to be notarized at the US Embassy for whatever reason. $50 fee for a notary stamp. Go to my bank in Florida, it's free. $50 for a notary stamp? Where'd they come up with that number? There's a lot of things that I'm not thrilled with the United States. I just a suggestion, if you're just curious about this, go on Google Maps to Bangkok and search for the U.S. Ambassador's residence. It's on Wireless Road, if that helps. And just see the size of the land that the ambassador's residence on. And you just sort of scratch your head like, can he have like a penthouse condo? There's some really nice condos in Thailand. Like, he could have a penthouse condo on the same road. But he has this, and I'm not blaming the ambassador. Like, I don't have a problem with the ambassador himself, but like, why does the United States have this? The land, you could probably build $1 billion mall on this land. It's like it's like shockingly huge. It's like one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in Bangkok, which real estate isn't as valuable as it is in New York, but Bangkok is pretty valuable. Yeah, we might go to Tokyo Disney, Jose, or we might go to Universal Studios or Osaka. That's actually we're probably going to go to Osaka in October. Um, it's not as easy to visit Europe, Lang. She still had to apply for a visa to Europe, and that was a pain in the butt. Took her a couple weeks to do the paperwork. She had to go to some I don't know if it was an interview, but she had to go to some place and talk to somebody, whatever. But Austria said yes in like 2 weeks. Um, so with Japan, I don't think we have to even apply for. I think we just show up. We've been there twice. Um, she can't. I can stay in Japan for 90 days. She can only stay for 15 days. But okay, we'll go for a 2 week trip to Japan. No, and it's not easy to visit South Korea, by the way, Lang. South Korea said no to my wife twice, and on the same trip. Um, South Korea has a thing against Thailand. I don't know. Official policy: Thailand people can enter South Korea visa free, but practical reality is when you hit you go online to check in before you arrive, they say no. My wife's parents can't even visit her daughter in the USA. We never had a wedding. Oh, yeah, there's so many stories like this. I just want people to appreciate that this is something that it's not me, right? Sucks for me, but I'll be okay, right? Yeah, she's never going to meet my parents, but they're both dead. She's never going to meet my brother, but they're both dead, right? It's my daughters, and my daughters, one of them's already met her. The other one eventually will meet her. Um, it's frustrating, but for me, it's like relatively small problem. It's annoying. It's like, okay, I encounter problems like this and I just adapt. Couldn't find a wife in America, came to Asia. I adapt. Um, yeah, the thing is, South Korea is apparently there's some population of Thai people who go to South Korea, overstay, and work illegally. Like, what? Why don't you just address the problem and find the illegal workers and throw them out? Why is this like? I don't know why that's so hard. Um, Lang says, I love visiting Taipei, Penang, and Vietnam. Yep. If you this just a quick thing. If you are an American or European and you haven't traveled to Southeast Asia yet or Asia yet, I didn't personally love Taipei, which is Taiwan. I'm not some people love it. I'm not trying to come down on Taipei. It just wasn't for me. But they're a nice country. Great trains, great food if you like it. For whatever reason it just didn't click for me. I prefer Hong Kong. Penang, Malaysia, and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Pretty impressive. Vietnam, I went to Da Nang and Hoi An. Not bad. There's a lot to see in Asia. Um, yeah. Visit the Philippines. Go to one of the former U.S. bases. Looks like you're in the U.S. Yeah, we could go to the Philippines. Philippines is kind of on our list of places we might go. But what do we go to Philippines for? The beaches? We have those. Have really nice beaches. Honestly, like 20-minute drive. Gorgeous beaches right here. Gorgeous islands. Spectacular. I want to go to the Philippines. And I've heard the Philippines isn't that great. I'm not saying it is or isn't that great. I've just heard from a number of people that quality of life in Philippines isn't the same as Thailand, and it's not less expensive. Like Vietnam is a little less expensive. Malaysia is a little less expensive. Quality of life's really high in Kuala Lumpur. Quality of life's really high in Penang. Um, Vietnam, where we were in Da Nang, was pretty nice. I haven't been to enough of Vietnam. Wasn't there long enough to say. So, all right. Well, I wanted to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for watching. I would say, like, if you know your congressman, if you have connections to people in politics or people in the State Department, you say to them, hey, I saw this video. I thought you should take a look at it. You know somebody. I don't think we're likely to change this. I think this is something that's unlikely to change. It's just one of those frustrations of being an American, and not being able to bring your wife to visit your family. And it's a frustration for Europeans who might want to bring their Thai wife to visit America. For Starbase, can you get a Mexican visa and visit the South Bank of the Rio Grande? Well, I mean, to be honest, if we visited the South Bank of the Rio Grande, it's not very hard to cross. I know multiple places to cross. If I wanted to play that game, I could. We're just not playing that game. And I believe it's not automatic that you'd get a visa to Mexico. I don't think it's automatic that she'd get a visa to Canada either. Um, yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody so much. I'm gonna be doing a video shortly about whether Tesla should invest in XAI. That's the next live stream. Might be tomorrow. So, thanks everybody so much. Great scuba diving in Thailand. Come on, man.